Alrighty. Second one, episode two of the Money Talks for CAC. I think our sitting down and talking through many different topics is something that's been helpful for us to kind of talk about the things we're dealing with, but also to give information to other people. So, to just jump straight into it, one of the opening questions I had to you, because we're in a season of just discussing financial independence. We just got off of 4th of July and all the things. So, with that in mind of independence, in the book that we have, we talk about fire, the fire movement, which I'll have you kind of explain a little bit your understanding of it. But the first time you ever heard about fire, what was your initial reaction to it?
Yeah, so for people who may not know, FIRE means financial independence, retire early. I didn't hear of it as being fire though. So I
Mm,
have people who wanted to retire early, the first being like my boyfriend, now husband. He wanted to retire at 30. And then we were in our mid 20s. And
mhm,
when he said that to me, I was like, well, why? Than for wanting to retire. And I've also never heard of it. So I was
mhm,
than anything as far as like expression goes, like emotion. Because the only people that I had known to retire early was one of my friends' moms who retired,
mhm.
and that was early. Um,
That is early, traditionally.
exactly. And as far as and maybe it's more so the area. So like in this area where a lot of people just stay with their good government jobs for tens of years and just retire from there and very comfortable doing that. But
Mhm.
doing that, socially comfortable doing that. And so I'd never heard of anything different. So being exposed to that as a shift from what I had known um, definitely was new. But it was more like a okay, well you can do that. I'll still work. Is how
Oh, okay.
that was like my initial thought of it. Um, and it's definitely changed since then, but initially,
So when he said he wanted to retire that young, it was like shocking to you in the sense of like, I don't want to do that, or you just never thought of it to even be like something to consider.
I never thought of it.
Okay.
That was something that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so because no one around me ever did it. Just like the same thing we would talk about of um, people actually paying off their credit cards. Well, if nobody you know is doing it, you
Doing it.
right.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you're supposed to do. That's it's never a thing like talked about in school. And I think about it, they don't really talk about in school. Well, at least for when I was growing up, like of options outside of getting a career. It was never like, well, what do you do with the career? Do you actually enjoy
Oh
it?
yeah, no.
It was very traditional the way the career options. So it was just I just didn't know. I didn't know that could be a thing. Um, and of course, like the more you read, the more you explore, then you learn. But I just didn't know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I like the fact that you said like growing up in school and like your like my experience as well was the same where it's like, you know, by the time you hit like the last couple of years of high school, junior and senior particularly, everyone wants to know what college are you going to, what are you doing for the rest of your life? And that's like right there for the rest of your life. There is no conversation of what journey will you start on, how will you shift after time, when will you stop. There is nothing in that conversation. You're just thinking about this heavy weight as like a 17, 18-year old. What am I supposed to do for the rest of my life? And you're not even sure, but that's all you know to even focus on is like choosing this one path that's supposed to be for the rest of your life for work. And I think for me, fire didn't come about until I want to say I was like in my first ever like career job. I was like, oh, okay. I just got out of doing a lot of contract work. That was though I was in the process of graduating, I was still working. I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do within science and things of that nature. I wanted to be in healthcare, but I wasn't too sure. And then after I got kind of comfortable, like, oh, I can do this. This is a nice career. I like this place, and oh, they have benefits. They actually they shut down the department, or a lot of the positions and roles that they had. They closed it down, and that was the first time of me one losing a position, even though I was a really good worker. I did great job. People wanted to make sure that I was helping in other different ways, but the job market at the time just wasn't good, or they just were making a shift within the company, as the company shifts. And I felt like, oh my gosh, like, what does this mean for myself? Like, I was not prepared for it. I mean, we are, unfortunately, a lot of times we go into school and college and get a degree, go into career without the idea, the foresight of what to do when you're in the job market. And losing your job, unfortunately, for some is not common, but can happen. And I was not prepared for it, and then I went scrambling to figure out, like, I don't like this feeling of uncertainty. What options do I have for if I were to ever go out on my own and have my own house, or have to like be responsible for X, Y, and Z? At the time, I wasn't yet. Like, I didn't venture out of my home. I was still living with my parents. I was like, what am I going to do to make sure I feel secure? Fire came up. I was Googling, I did my YouTubes. I love me a good YouTube, and fire came up. And I was like, what is this thing and this whole movement about the idea of finding? And I think the thing for fire that I connected with the most was not the fact of retiring early, which is your RE part of it, was the FI, financial independence, making sure that you made financial decisions with your money now, safeguarding it, finding investment strategies, finding ways to reduce your expenses, things of that nature, to truly maximize on the dollars you're getting in this age, so that you can a plan for your fire number, which, for those who don't know, the fire number is typically set by your expenses that you expect to have at the time of when you want to retire, and making sure there's a couple of calculations and things like that. You can look at our ebook to kind of better understanding of how to calculate your fire number. But in general, the fire number is like the for me, like the guiding light of like, okay, this is the number I'm trying to get to, and what financial decisions and plans can I do now to get me to that particular number. So once I found all the different people, and for me, they're all around our age. It was like all like mid young millennials kind of trying to figure out how to like make this happen. I was like, oh my gosh, these people understand my struggle and like want to be free and want to do different things too. Okay, so I really got on board in that regard, but I realized that there's still other avenues towards fire. But that was like my initial reaction of like, oh, okay, this is something that could I can find a way to find stability financially within my own journey, and not be so concerned about the uncertainties of the job market, because that does happen. But if you have a strategy for your financial future, it just makes you feel a little bit more confident of how to go about it. That's just me. Yeah.
Yeah, so that leads into the next question of, as you were doing this research and even now, like how things have changed in your life, it's been over time. What does fire mean for you in your time right now?
Ooh, fire meaning for me now. That's a good question. So I believe that I'm still on the edge of the financial independence aspect of fire, but taking the different aspects of what I've learned, I am customizing it to my lifestyle more than what the actual traditional fire movement may be. There's various different fires, but I feel like I'm more likely to be a person that keeps working. I like to be active, have my mind working on different things, especially with the work that we're doing with financial literacy. I'm very passionate about the fact of doing that. So even if I get to my fire number, I'm still going to want to help people to understand how to do different things and to get to their own fine number if that's something they're interested in. So I think for me now, it's more or less the fact of finding ways to still have freedom within the strategies that I have to try and get to my number, my goal, and finding a balance between striving to that number, but then also giving myself a break to be able to say, oh, this is a have a little bit of fun here, go on this small vacation, but budget it, things of that nature, to still have that balance. Because I think when I first started, I was very lean, like we got to go at it, beans and noodles type of experience. And I was like, well, this feels really hard. And it's not like if you want to do that, that's on you. But for me, it just wasn't like the best approach. What about you?
Yeah, I've definitely heard of the people who like spend nothing, get extra jobs, and all of that. And I will say that for me, fire is more leaning towards the freedom of choice of my, like where I choose to spend my time. And that includes whether I decide to stay at my job. So
Mm,
having that freedom of choice of working because I want to, not because I have, that to me is ultimate fun. Now, having the savings and all of the investments set up are still very important, and we're
yeah.
as well. But in this initial phase where I'm looking to retire at 40, which will be 4 years from now,
Hmm.
like I'm trying to set myself up to be in that space of working only because and working on the projects that and that's where I love that being a part of CAC allows me to do that because I love this and I also enjoy product management. So I'm very blessed in that way that I'm able to do two things that I love right now. It's just
Hmm.
shifting the balance of how much time I spend on each. So right now, of course, I spend less time on CAC, and I want to spend more of my time and less time on management and shifting in that way. But as long as I can have that freedom and still be able to have the lifestyle that I want, because I think that that's something that people don't realize is that it's based on the lifestyle that you want. So if your now is less expensive than the lifestyle that you want to have future state, then there's some planning that you have to do. Would that involve a mortgage? Would that involve certain types of vacations? All of those things need to be considered for you to have an accurate number for your fire. Otherwise, you'd actually be setting yourself up to fail because you wouldn't be.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm so glad that you say that because I think that is one of the misconceptions people have, especially when you're first getting into the experience of fire. I'll say it's a movement for a reason. You get really fired up, you start seeing the lifestyle that people have, and you're like, oh my gosh, to be able to do the things and to be as free as they are and to craft the life they want. This sounds like something I'm very much for, and you definitely get into the movement. But until you kind of understand the fact that it is customizable and best when customized, I think a lot of the times people may think that, oh, I need to follow this particular set of rules. And I think that's honestly where that misconception comes about, is because we were already conditioned that way when it came to like growing up and how we retire. We're given a set of rules of do these particular things, and this will bring you to the future that you'd like. Whereas fire actually is giving you a framework to support what you want to do. Which I think that that open space, people are like, oh no, I'll fill it with what other people say. I was like, no, that's the time for you to sit down, dream, imagine, think about what you're really wanting for yourself and craft the number backwards. I think that's what I started with doing. I kind of did like a visualization session, like a dream boarding, however you want to do it. And I said, okay, what would I want my days to look like if I was financially free? And that's how I even found out that I was like, I'm still gonna work. I'm still gonna be doing something that would of course generate revenue, that's great, but just more or less keep me engaged, something that I'm passionate about, but I'll probably do it in this type of way. But it takes that visualization moment to understand what you're looking for, put a couple numbers beside it and say, oh, this is going to cost this, I'm going to travel this much, is going to cost that, and then total it all up and say, okay, around this much will be my expenses, and from here this is where I should start my fire journey. I think that's my what I found to be the first misconception that I feel like most people get tripped up about. Did you find within your either your process or people that you've talked to, if there are any misconceptions or things that they believe to be like, oh, this is what it really means?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception that I heard about was that people retired to do nothing.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, I work all this time, I gain all this money, and then just so I could do absolutely nothing, sit on the beach all day. The funniest thing. So the people that I've read or seen videos about that have done this, they all say that it gets old laying on the beach all day.
Yeah, all fast.
Yeah, they're like, it might be a week, maybe even a month, but then after that, you're like, well, what now? Because you're not dead, you're still alive. You do now. And
Yeah.
That I think is huge because we see this glamorous life. And what's so interesting is that the people who I've seen to actually like enjoy their lives so much still work. Like when we think about even like influencers and all that stuff, they're actually still working,
Yeah.
traveling and all those things, and they might be having a vacation, but they're still working, even though they're living this certain life. And it's the same thing with fire, in that they're working to a certain extent to have a certain amount of money tucked away. But I think it's less of that they're working because they have to and they're working because they want to. And I think that's the shift that allows for them to, I guess, develop, or other people to develop this misconception because they see these people traveling or even if it's not necessarily traveling, but doing things on their own time, maybe going to brunch during the week, or at a cafe, and they're like, how can I do that when I have to be in the office, or I have to be at a certain place at a certain time to do my job and get paid for that. That's where I think that it also leads into the misconception that we're paid based on our time.
Mm.
And fire to me kind of flips that, and that you're paid based on your value, and then you use that value later on to buy back.
Yeah, leveraging your skills in a way that's not hourly, it's not salary, it's based on how much value can you bring to a thing, even on the aspect of investing, which I kind of leads into something that you had said earlier of the misconception that you don't work any longer. One of the individuals that I was following on YouTube that were able to hit their fine number actually like a year or two right before COVID. They're I can't remember their names right now, but they're a really awesome YouTube family that they were able to retire on government jobs, doing a lot of house renovations and things of nature, and got to their fire number, and then they decided to move to Lisbon, Portugal. And in that process of them being in Portugal, COVID happened. So guess what? They have to find ways to strategically move around their investments to be able to sustain this experience. Not saying that they would be, it's gonna be a hard situation or they're literally gonna lose money out of that time period. No, I mean, when you're planning your fire number, it is also supposed to allow for some lower dips and higher highs within the market. But at the end of the day, you can't just say, well, oh, I got my number. I'll go sit on the beach the whole time. No, you have to pay attention to your investments still. You want them to work for you, even though you're pulling out at a 4% rate and things of that nature to make sure that it's safe. You still have to figure out, okay, well, if my money isn't going this far, how do I do that? And I found it to be so interesting that the misconception that a lot of people have about retirement in general is the fact that once you hit this finish line, all things that require you to adult goes away. Where it's like you don't have to budget anymore, you don't have to handle your finances anymore. Money just comes when you need it. No, it just means that there is an opportunity for you not to be associated with or tied to a job that maybe you don't love. That's really all it truly means, that you're coming out of the workforce on a consistent basis to do whatever you may want to do with the money that you were able to obtain through that process. So I think that was one thing I realized even for myself. I was like, oh yeah, well, if I'm done and I'm at the finish line of retirement, so to speak, I still have to budget. I still have to make sense of like, are we going to go on this trip or that, and what's savings, and like all that still comes into play, because unless you're trying to just literally throw all that cash away within a year or two, you still have to be financially responsible with the monies that you were able to obtain for that time period, and to hedge your best against things like, who knew that COVID would have happened, and how that impacts your finances and how it impacts your investments and what different plans you plan to do at that time period. So it's still all kind of being conscious about maybe not your career as much as the way that you're deciding to live, and then how do you shift and refocus for the things you truly want with that new found financial freedom you have.
That's that's definitely a tough one, in that it's always a dream until you actually try to step into
Ooh,
reality hit. And
that's a word.
bad way. Like it's more so just the reality of the actual choice that you made. And
Yeah.
or consequences may come of that. So it's just like a push and pull, but still a learning. Um,
Yeah.
Next question we had was, what's a money decision you made that felt small at the time, but looking back was truly a game changer?
Wow, that's a really good question. Cause the one that sticks out to me first, initial reaction, and it's, I guess, leaning to the fact of the life lesson of dream bigger, which I'll get to in a second, was the purchase of my first car. I thankfully was blessed enough for my parents to have gifted me a vehicle when I was in college. Was it a hoopty? Close to hoopty. It was hoopty adjacent, but nevertheless, it didn't come out of my pockets, and I was grateful for it. So, with that being said, throughout the process, I was just kind of like going from car to car because it's an older car, older vehicle, it needs a little bit more help. Long story short, tell my parents I'm kind of frustrated with this car. I need to go into the dealership and get something that's used is what I was living my life off of. My father was like, "Well, the newer cars are around the same pricing now. Maybe you want to look at that." I was like, "No." I'm paying in cash. We don't have loans. That was a big thing for me. And even to this day, I'm very big on the fact of like, I would rather, finance it myself versus going through lending or having a loan and things of that nature. But I was very adamant, like, this is coming out of my pocket. And my dad kind of talked me off that ledge just a little bit because he's like, you need a vehicle that will stand the test of time and handle the things you need. Please don't skip on $2 or $3. And people who know me, I have my stingy ways. He's like, don't skip on $2, $3 to save a coin when you really need the value out of something. Long story short to that story, I was able to get the car financed. I did finance it, but I paid the car off within about a year and a half or 2 years because I was aggressive with paying down the additional that I did have out of pocket. And I've had this car to this day. I've only had a couple issues with it, but I now understand it felt large then. So I guess it's not a small experience, but for me it felt large then. But even the game changer experience of how I deal with finances actually shifted at that point of saying, go for value as well as affordability. I was struggling with that understanding. And even for somebody that's going, like you said, stepping into the idea of financial independence, that's also something I had to keep slowly learning to myself, like going for the value, paying attention to what value looks like, how well it will serve you throughout that entire time versus just the $5 car that will break down in 2 days type situation. So that was to me probably the biggest game changer because at first I thought I was throwing money away toward a loan, not realizing at the time I was actually investing in my time. I've had to spend less time on dealing with car issues and problems because I decided to invest in that car versus if I were to go something smaller, I'd probably still be having these car woes on my head throughout my life. So yeah.
I think that's a huge thing. I want to stay on that for a minute because of the value aspect. I think that thing can be translated to technology or clothes. Like I know that people will spend like $20 times for some headphones when you could have just spent what the $200 once. Yeah, see that's
That was me.
yeah, and like there's certain things I told myself that I'm willing to invest the money into, especially if it's something that I know I'm going to use all the time. Like
Mhm.
one, running shoes is another. Because I've known people to like have bad workout shoes and their feet hurt so badly because of that. They can't walk right, they're limping because of their shoes.
Mhm.
Like those are the things like investing in, like so tech is definitely one. Clothes I think are interesting as well because
Yes.
big notion of like fast fashion, and I'm in this stage where I'm trying to define my, and as I'm trying to define my style, when I ask people for recommendations, a lot of people say Shein to me, and I actually still haven't ordered from them, so I have no idea what their quality is.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm so skeptical because I'll see this really cute outfit for like $25. And I'm like, is it really good quality? Like, is it going to versus me going to like a Banana Republic or an Array
Mhm.
where I will spend more money, but I'll have these things for years. So, like,
Yeah.
talking about like investment or the value of something and deciding, like, oh, where should I spend my money? Like, what is more beneficial to me in this moment? Because I hate to shop. So, like, me spending a lot of time, like scrolling through things, like my eyes glaze over and I end up buying nothing, which is anything from Shein. But
Okay.
it's just like I get overwhelmed with all the choices. Versus like actually investing the time to go somewhere and pick whatever it is that. But like that's where it can get a little funky when it comes. But um,
Yeah. If anything, I think that what you said there, and even like the idea of value, I think that's something that is a learned skill over time. Because even for me, when it comes to like the clothing aspect, I was I was a rainbow fan. That shows my age. Back in the day, just yeah. I mean, like I just pick up something quick, was able to go to an event for whatever I needed, but then learning what it meant to search and to shop for quality, not even just brand name. Because I think that sometimes people even go after brand name because saying, oh, this brand will bring me good quality. When it's like sometimes not every brand brings out an item that every single item is going to be amazing in quality. So it just goes to show that like there's a learning process, especially for our community. Because some of us have been, raised, I know for myself, we were middle class, lower middle class at certain times, having to think differently about different things of life, what it means to buy timeless pieces. Like, I'm sorry, that was not something that we were talking about when I was younger. Timeless pieces, like, that, like, no, and like making sure that you're looking at the quality of something for how long it lasts. For the most part, it's always been the dollar sign. And I think within that conversation of financial freedom, there's also learning of how to spend your money responsibly that comes about within that, and that comes in with the idea of quality and value and longevity, because you want to make sure that, yes, you have, let's say in your favorite scenario, you have all the money in the world that you want. You still want to be responsible and thoughtful of how you spend that, because you can spend thousands of dollars on Shein. Sure, you have an entire like house full of Shein clothes, but like, is that really gonna serve you the way you want to? And maybe it's just three Shein items and then five from Banana Republic and somewhere else. I don't know, just random places. But the idea of learning what it means in that process of being financially sound along with having the monies that you'd want to, and kind of coupling that together, that's definitely something I think I'm still even in the process and journey of learning, because I will cut money into, I'll try my best to find the savings of a lifetime, and sometimes it's not always necessary to do so.
yeah, and I think, like you said, the responsibility aspect of it, of knowing when to choose something that is just quick for right now, or something that you want to love. It's something I'm still working on, but it's definitely I'm finding it to be more beneficial to invest the time, but I still struggle to make. Um,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I will say that one thing that I've noticed to be a game changer for me that I didn't realize how small of an effort it was to start was opening a high yield savings. That's something where, and the only reason I did it was because I wanted to start saving for a house. And I can't remember how much money I started with, but it
Mhm.
was $1,000. So that didn't, but it was the act and commitment of continuing to invest in that account.
Mhm.
I was saving, knowing that I had a timeline. I think I gave myself a year to like save and at least be ready, even if I didn't necessarily. And really focusing on that, and seeing the initially it might have been only $1 in interest or $5 in interest, but seeing how month to month it continued to grow as long as I kept being consistent. And then, mind you, of course, like because it's high yield savings, it would have grown anyway.
Mhm.
But just seeing that impact, or even understanding how interest rates, Federal Reserve interest rates, impacted the.
Yeah.
I didn't understand that until I actually saw it, and I would get upset at times when interest rates would go down because I'm saying that means I get less money in my savings account versus when they would go when interest rates would go down, and then I would have more money to buy things, but because there would then be competition of it, it wasn't going as far.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that was just like a very interesting part for that. But I'm always an advocate for high yield savings accounts. They literally hurt you nothing. Like the
Hurts you nothing.
things you only value to have your money in these accounts. But what I find is that not that people are afraid of the savings account because there is no risk to it.
Mhm.
There's two things that I've noticed people get kind of hung up on, especially older generations. So older generations, because high yield savings accounts typically are online based,
Mhm.
there's a distrust that
True.
not being able to go to the bank and physically get money out,
Mhm.
um, I think people get hung up on, especially older generations. And I will say part of that might be the history that we've had with banks culture.
Mhm.
There's just been so much marginalization against Black people, which is so valid. Um,
Mhm.
but also, they want to touch and feel it. Like they won't believe, like so, kind of like the same concept of putting your money under the mattress
Yes.
because you see it and you know for sure that it's there.
Yeah.
Not realizing that even when you have money in a bank account, it's typically not actually at the bank.
Mm-mm. Please, can you just explain that for like a quick 30 seconds of how when you put money into your checking or your savings, how that is not just sitting there waiting for you at any point?
Exactly. Yeah. So banks themselves don't legally, they can only hold but so much money physically in a bank because of the insurance. It makes them more liable the more money or valuables that they hold physically. So they typically put the money into reserves or say vaults, and that's where like the cash still exists. It's just that it's not physically able for you to get to it. And also, there are limits to the amount of money that you can take out at one time, because that's something that I had to explain to my family as well when they wanted to take out a certain amount of money. And I'm like, legally, you can't take that out. They're well, why not? It's my money. And I get that. I completely understand your concept.
Mhm.
But one, I always ask, why is it that you want to have such a large amount of money to take at once? And no one could really explain the reason why. It was all emotion based.
Mm.
More so they just wanted to feel secure of knowing that they could physically go. So that's probably like the one of the biggest things for the older generation when it comes to high yield savings accounts. What I noticed for the younger generation, it's more of because I'm starting off with such a low amount of money, the interest that I'm getting doesn't mean anything.
Mm. Interesting.
The concept isn't there that I did nothing to get this dollar. I did absolutely nothing but hold my money there. That doesn't register. It's only a dollar. I can get a dollar anywhere. But that's not the point. The Like I've had to have these conversations. Like that's not the point. The point is you didn't have to do anything to get it. And right now it's only a dollar. But literally the more money that I put into high yield savings account, I've literally gotten thousands of dollars per year. So like
Yeah.
it's valuable, but it took years. It took years to get to that point. It wasn't immediate, but it had to be paid. So like that's where I see as far as the dynamics of high yield savings accounts of why people are hesitant to open them. And to me, it just really stems from one misunderstanding,
Mhm.
fear, and those emotions really leading them to not make a decision at all. or just maintain what they've already been doing, which actually hasn't been working. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I like what you said about the two different generations. I think that one wants safety and security to say like I see it so it seems safe and seems secure because I can see it, and the other not understanding the long-term effects of compounding. I think the younger generation's compounding, if it seems it's a dollar, it seems like nothing because it's just a dollar. But if I told you that someone's gonna come to your house every day to give you $2, you'd open the door for them. You'd be like, all right, it's $2. I'll open the door. It's like so it's weird the conceptualizing it, how it's difficult, but I definitely love a high yield savings. Free money is always good money, in my opinion. In my opinion. So
I feel like that might be the one I need to tell now. Of the if somebody came to your house and gave you $2 every day, would you?
yeah.
They would never.
Yeah, you would at least open the door and say, It's $2, it doesn't hurt." Which technically speaking, that should be the idea when it comes to high yield savings. It's a sum of money, a certain percentage on the money I put in, whether it's 50 cents, a dollar, $2, $200, it's something on what I've already have there. It doesn't hurt. So yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
The last question, I'll wrap us up.
Mhm.
What would you say is one belief or mindset shift about money that has helped you feel more free, not just financially though, but just in general?
Ooh, that is a really good question because I think, mm, the way that I would describe it, um, financial freedom, which I know that a lot of my friends and family aspire to, I think that the mindset that really shifted for me was realizing the customization that we talked about before, and not just in fire, but in life. Like currently speaking right now, I am in the process of figuring out how am I able to travel and live in different countries for about a year or 2? I'm still trying to figure it all out, which ones are best for me, which ones make sense. But I could only get to that place with understanding that my life outside of a job is customizable. How I want to go about living my life, even to this day. I'm looking, I have a fire number in hand. I want to get to that fire number, but even today, now, presently, I get to customize and choose how I go about that. And strategizing is what helps me to get there. So I'm not sure yet right now how to move from where I am to be able to say that I am living abroad, and traveling to different countries and still being able to financially support myself through that process. I'm not sure yet, but I'm working through the steps of it. But what's really the biggest mind shift for myself and I give to other people or want to give to other people is knowing that you are in charge of how you want to craft your life today, as well as for that future retirement freedom experience you want to have. Don't always follow what you've heard. Take other people's ideas and thoughts as ideas and thoughts, not as rules and structure of how you need to live your life. So that was the main money shift and mindset shift for myself. What about you?
Exactly.
Okay.
We did not talk about this before. And the way that I would frame it a little bit differently, though, is that I choose what I want to do with my time.
Mm,
So whether that's me going to the gym, devotionals, working on apps, or working at to teach financial literacy, it all is what I choose to do. And that to me matters so much, especially because my priorities have changed a lot and being open to those priorities. So I would say, like, when I was younger in my 20s, I really wanted to become a doctor. Like, actually, growing up all through my life, you kind of touched on this too, like high school age. Like that was what I was choosing. Like
hmm.
school was based on that, and I think that was more so based on being asked the question, "What do you want to be when you grow up?"
Yeah.
I think that I remember reading "Becoming" by Michelle Obama, and she said she hates when adults ask kids that question because
I'm on that same boat. Yeah.
you choose and you don't. Um,
No.
even that you have the option to change your mind. and I've changed my mind multiple times.
As everyone does, I think it's a part of the journey.
But we aren't taught that.
Correct.
Like we're taught of you get a career, you stay in that career forever. I think about my friends who are teachers or firefighters, and I ask them those questions of like, well, would you want to do something else? And they all say that they do, but it's more like they just don't want to do what they're doing.
Mm,
That they've uh, truly dove deeper into what they could do. And I think that's part of it as well, where we all want this freedom, and we say that we do, but few are willing to think outside of the scripts that were written for us. And that
yeah.
written by schooling, by our parents, just saying that you need to have a certain type of job. Like I know my mom hated that I just never wanted to work for the federal government all her career and like 30
Oh.
and retired from there.
Mhm.
Like I just don't feel like that's the thing for me. And I have never felt types of reservations or regrets about not doing that. But
Yeah.
that also leans towards people saying things like, "Oh, you're doing something else. What are you doing now? I thought you were doing that." Like that, that, that is
Yeah.
a lot of the conversation too, where people are like, "Are you changed your career again? Like, what is this one again? Like, what does this one mean?"
And it makes you feel sometimes insecure about the process of flowing. And I say flow because I think there's certain people that are trying to learn what works for them, and then there's also people where there's different modalities that they just work within and they flow through whatever that looks like. So it just depends. But sometimes hearing those things of like, oh, it's a new one now. Oh, this is what's this one? Oh, you're done with the old one. It makes you feel like, oh, should I not be doing this?
Exactly, exactly. And it takes some time to be secure in yourself to feel okay with. It takes some time, lots of self reflection, but that takes work. It takes a lot of inner work to get there. And I think that's probably like the best thing I could say about fire and the mindset shift that's required is taking off the barriers that were set for you.
Mm,
Really, honestly, for me, it was looking at, even at the lives of those around me and deciding for myself, like, do I want that? And not even necessarily that those people were unhappy or that they were not successful, but just asking myself, do I want the same? And if I wanted the same, then I could stick to those scripts for the most part.
mhm.
Life just be life. So you just never know. I could those scripts and say, okay, that was what works for me. But because I decided that those things didn't work for me, finding people like you to connect with that want other things and just exploring, even though we don't necessarily want the exact same things, but just exploring that it doesn't have to be the original scripts that were written for us. And whatever that might be, just looking into it, researching, seeing what that could be, and knowing that it's possible. That was probably the most freeing and scariest thing at the same time.
Wow. Right there. Oh, right there, that in between place of, like I said before, when people grow up with a very rigid framework of how to get to the happiness of their life, when someone tells them you have this much more expansive space to show up, there is a excitement and also fear because now you feel like it's all on you, but that's actually the freedom that you should feel like, oh, it is on me to decide and it's okay to figure it out and to not have it all structured out. When I first started on the fire journey, man, like I said, I was oodles and noodlesing it for no reason. And I say no reason because like it's not my ministry to do that. Like I realized I like to I like to explore, I like to travel, I like to do a lot of different things, but I was following what I believe to be the best way about going to this particular end goal without realizing, like, almost like if someone gave you a huge room and said you can fill it with anything, you're like, I got that little corner over there. Yay. It's like you have the entire room. And it may feel daunting at first of having this expansive room, hearing the echo and only being you making the decision. But that's the moment where you either find friends or find community or find individuals to have the conversations and start to say, oh, I like what she's doing there and like what he's doing there. And that makes sense there. And I read this article and I read this book. And starting to craft a life that makes sense for you, and that's the freedom. I think we always think about the financial part of the conversation and not just the freedom part of it. It's also the freeing to be able to say I have choice and how I even approach finding the way that I want to live my life when I get to that quote unquote fire number that I'm looking at. So yeah.
And definitely embracing that. And that's the most exciting part of it, even exploring what my options are and realizing that if I want to change my timeline, I can. Um,
Hmm.
I'm enjoying what I do. Why can't I? If that's what I choose to. Like that's the thing with fire too, understanding that you can decide whether or not you want to stay on it or what
Yeah.
you like. There's many different definitions that I've read over time, and I'm just like, yes, like so like it's like I want to technically retire early from um working for someone else. But if I decided that I didn't want to do that and decided that I wanted to stay, knowing that I have the freedom to do that.
Yeah. And it's that's what it is right there. That's the freedom to be able to choose how you want to live and how you go about that. And I really hope that people take from this conversation that we had that there's options. Of course, if you guys have questions about the options, we're always here to talk to people. We are finance nerds in the sense we're financial freedom nerds or financial literacy nerds because we want to geek out about the questions you guys have. But it's really important for you to know, like, even if you're not sure about it, still start that journey and process. Find your people to kind of help support that conversation and know that it's possible. Even if you have $20 to your financial journey name, you can get to that freedom place and know that it's your choice on how you even craft that for yourself.
And I um lastly, is there anything that you wanted to share, any additional message that you want to say for what?
I feel like we kind of covered most of it. My biggest happy point with getting to the mindset I have about financial freedom is the choice part of it. I will say I'm in that place of excited and nervous as well because my journey and plan of going on this year-long travel of being able to work remotely, but also travel to different countries to see what life looks like outside of the US. I'm excited, but also nervous because I don't know what that's gonna look like. And that's gonna start for me sometime next year. But if you're in that place of being excited and nervous, know that like still making that first step makes a difference. So I'm scared, but doing it anyway type situation. So that's where I am for myself. What about you?
For me, it's more of the message I always want to share is that it's okay to change your mind. You have that freedom, but also do your research. Explore for yourself what your options are, whether that's living in a different country, buying property, or staying in your job because you actually like it.
Actually like it.
There's this notion that I saw it on Instagram where this lady was really upset because she had gotten let go. And then when she found a new job, being very excited about it. And she's like, in this world of social media where we think that 9 to 5 jobs are like shamed, or I don't say it's not like it's a good thing. It's more like, oh, you are tied down to the man because you have a 9 to 5. Some people actually like their 9 to 5 job and enjoy what they do, and that's okay too. Just knowing that whatever your path is for you is for you. You can change your mind, you have that freedom. I will say to be smart with your decisions. Like some people just quitting their jobs out of nowhere and you got bills. Like, let's be smart here. Like, let's right here. Let's make wise choices.
Yes.
But like deciding for yourself like what it is for you, um and taking hold of that and just going with it, knowing
Yeah.
that no decision for the most part is reversible. or
Yeah. Irreversible. You have options, flexibility, and no matter what, no one's path and journey is straightforward. I don't think I've known anyone. I mean, maybe stay in the same company, but even still, in the company, there's fluxes and changes. Life will always change on you. So feel okay and comfortable to say, this isn't for me anymore, and I'm going to try something new, and that's okay. Yeah.
you guys for watching. We definitely appreciate it. You know, this podcast is new, and we look forward to continuing to bring you content.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments, feel free to leave those for us, and we will see you in the next. Bye.